Today's guest is Hank Ruff, a country artist out of southern Indiana. He's built a strong following across the Midwest, blending that 90s country sound with a modern edge. We get into how he got started, writing music with his dad, and the stories behind some of his songs. Hank, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So, I guess for somebody who's never met you or never heard your music, just give me a little background on you.
So I grew up Southern Indiana, grew up in Bloomington, and I really got into country music from a real early age. My dad has a band called the Daddies, and I grew up, you know, trying to sit in with them, and I fell in love with country music from that early age, and kind of just carried that into college while I was at IU, and started writing songs when I realized, hey, we got a little following built up. Why not just put out a song? So my dad and I, wrote a song. I put it out, and kind of the rest is history. We just been, doing it and playing shows all over, mostly the Midwest, but we've played some in California, some all the way in Massachusetts, in that area. So been playing all over the place, and putting out songs, and it's growing and growing, so I can't complain.
So, how early was it when you actually started making music yourself?
So I picked up the mandolin. I started playing the mandolin when I was, it was about when I could walk, I think, because my dad plays the mandolin, and it was small enough that I could lift it earlier than I could a guitar. So I grew up playing lots of bluegrass music, Bill Monroe, Ralph Stanley, stuff like that. I was a big bluegrass guy and old school country. And, once I got into middle school, I kind of realized that I thought the girls might be a little more impressed if I was playing guitar instead of the mandolin. So I picked up the guitar and started playing that a little bit more. And now I play both. I pull out both at a lot of the shows. I'll play some mandolin in there. But, I guess really from the time I could walk, I started playing, But when I really could actually play some chords and play for real was about probably fourth grade or so on the mandolin. And, kind of just took that and ran with it into guitar. And, so for a while, I guess.
And then, I guess, what made you want to just start making your own music?
I mean, I think I just, I realized, it's fun playing. There's nothing more fun than just playing songs people know. Playing big cover songs, that is fun. But, part of me just thought, well, I have something to say. Maybe I should write some songs and put out some of my original music. And I think it was more so just thinking, it's fun playing covers all the time, but it'd be nice to have some of my own music too that I wrote. So,
What were some of your early songs and first songs like?
Oh man, I wrote a song. The first song I ever wrote was in middle school. I wrote, and it was my first song, so I'm not going to be too tough a critic. But it was to get back a girl. In middle school, I played it for the whole choir concert. The whole choir, all the parents and all the people there. I played it in front of the whole school at the choir concert, called "The Prettiest Angel," and for a seventh grade song, I won't say that it's the worst thing. I'm not disappointed that that's the quality of song I wrote in seventh grade. We actually put it on, believe it or not. So I recorded that, got to record that. Just me, a little acoustic demo in Nashville at a real studio. One of my friend's parents, they had a connection into a real studio there, and we recorded a guitar vocal studio track of that. And I have had it for years, and I decided to throw it on the EP we put out a couple years ago called the Hellbender. So if you go to that EP, you can actually find that first original song is the last track on the EP there.
Did she know it was for her?
Oh yeah, she did. She was a twin, and it mentioned the twin reference was made in the song, which I think made it pretty obvious. And not just did she know it was about her, I'm pretty sure that about 70% of my middle school was probably about 400 people. I think 300 of the 400 people at my middle school knew it was about her. So
Did it work?
it worked. It did. It actually did. You know, I got a text or a Snapchat or her the next day and was like, she was willing to speak to me again. So the song was successful.
And now it's on an EP, and she'll always have that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was kind of funny. A few years ago, she just sent me a text. We're friends still, like, we went to high school together, and then in college, we had a lot of friends, mutual friends, and she texted me a few years ago and just said, "Hey, it is pretty cool to have a song written about me." I was like, "Yeah, well, glad I could do it."
Maybe that'll be like her first dance when she gets married. She'll dance to that song.
That would be. I guess we'll find out.
And then, so have you ever done anything like, so you write with your dad too, though?
Yeah, my dad's a great songwriter. He has an awesome band called the Doodaddies, and he's a great songwriter, and he's comes up with a lot of clever lyric stuff, and so, it's been a good team effort for a lot of the songs I put out. He's helped on. So I've been lucky to have him on those with me.
Do you like to write with other people too?
If I'm being honest, I really haven't done a bunch of co-writes other than with my dad. So, I don't really know that I can say a strong answer on that. I've enjoyed it the few times I've done it. Writing with buddies that I know. So yeah, I mean, I like it. I think I really love the performing side of being an artist, to be honest. The performing side really keeps me going and motivated. But yeah, the writing side, I think maybe I just need to get doing more co-writes now that I'm in Nashville a lot. I'll be doing more of that.
Would you play like a pitch song? Like if someone brought you a song and was like, I want you to be your song.
Absolutely. One of the songs I have out called Whiskey Always Wins. It's one of my favorites to play live by far. That song was an outside cut. The guys who wrote that are Joey Moye, who has written and produced, originally all the Nickelback stuff, but then Morgan Wallen, the Florida Georgia Line stuff. Joey's been, just crushing it for 25 years now. So he wrote that song with a guy named Lynn Hutton, who's written some other incredible country songs. So I got lucky and got them to let me cut it. They gave the approval for me to cut that song. So I would absolutely cut more outside cuts if I can get stuff like that.
Yeah. How does it feel playing a song like that somebody has written?
I mean, I think I don't know that there's a feeling that different for me, because I only pick, with that song, with that outside cut, it was a song where I related to and felt like it's something that I totally would have written. So, because of that, I wouldn't say it really feels that much different than when I'm doing the songs that I wrote, because, they feel like they're me. I would sing, I would write the exact lines of the Whiskey Always Wins. So the whiskey has won a couple of times in my life, so I relate to it just like I would, a song that I wrote myself. So not too different.
So when was your first gig, just you or you and your band playing out?
The first shows that I was a part of were with my dad's band, obviously, when I was younger. But I'd say our first real show where I put together a band, we played an end of the school year party in middle school. And that was the first time we had to get a PA system and get all that sound equipment. I had never, I didn't know anything about running a PA system and mixing the live sound, live mix. So that was 7th grade, was the first paid gig with a PA system and all that I ever did.
And then after that, I mean, did it just take off or?
Yeah, I'd say, I was in middle school, so I didn't really just start playing gigs all the time. I was pretty school focused and basketball focused. Sports were one of my priorities for sure growing up, and school also was. I wouldn't say that I'm a nerd in the sense of that I like learning and like doing school, but I care about doing well in it. So it made me a nerd by force, because I just, wanted to be doing well on my school stuff. So I spent a lot of time studying and doing my homework, and then playing basketball, and then, playing a lot of music too, but not, it wasn't a thought when I was 12 or 13, oh, I'm going to be playing music all the time and do this, right now. So it kind of developed into, oh, well, I love this and have always loved it. Let's do it, for real.
What point in your life was that?
I'd say, during college, I kind of realized, hey, I love doing this. We're building a fan base. Like, let's do it. So I'd say by college, we were, planning to not necessarily directly use my college degree.
So you'd play in college? Would you just play local and then play for a lot of your friends and people from school?
Yeah. It kind of started just playing. I played guitar for an awesome Indiana country singer as well, named Clayton Anderson. I started out playing guitar for him, and that was great, and I loved that. And then, I was in a fraternity here at Indiana University, and I thought, man, it'd be cool if we put together a band and played some of our fraternity parties, and I thought it'd be a cool change up from the DJ that we'd have a DJ every week, and I was like, why don't we change it up? So we kind of did that, and it took off from there. Next thing you knew, we were playing a bunch of the different fraternities and different Greek events, and then started playing the Bluebird and being able to sell tickets at the Bluebird, which was kind of the major step forward, for progressing. So yeah.
What's the biggest show you've played to date?
The biggest show we've played today, I guess that would have to be we played on a bill on the main stage for the Harley Davidson Homecoming Festival a year and a half ago with Jelly Roll and Hardy and Warren Zeiders and Priscilla Block, and that one was awesome. That was crazy. That was kind of one of those where it's like wow, like this is real. We walked out on that massive stage. It was the biggest stage I've ever played on. I mean, the stage was massive. I had, I run around stage at all my shows. I was like, I'm gonna have to do some cardio before I can actually do a bunch of these stages. I was running, 30 feet back and forth. It was a cool show. So that's, I guess, probably the biggest show to date that we've done.
Do you think it was more intimidating, like when you went out and see that stage, compared to like what you normally would play?
I think I'd be lying if I said that there wasn't a hair more of nerves maybe at the start, but once you're out there and doing it, it's just like any other show in terms of you're bringing the same energy. Or I like to think that you bring the same energy whether you're playing a club for 100 people or the Harley Davidson Festival for 25,000 people. So I don't think once you're up there that it really feels that much different, other than you got to make sure you're bringing it because you want the people in the back to feel that energy. It's a little easier when they're only 50 feet away from you. It's harder when they're 1,000 feet away from you.
A lot of your music now still kind of has that like older country sound to it. I know you said you grew up on that, but like when it comes out, is it just sounds older country?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on, as I said, bluegrass music and old school country, like Buck Owens, Hank Williams Sr., Jimmy Rogers, like real, like 50s country, even 40s country, the Carter family. I grew up on all that stuff. And then, later on in high school, I discovered a lot more of the late 80s, 90s stuff, the Dwight Yoakam, Clint Black, Travis Tritt, that stuff. And to me, I love all those eras of country, but for me that era was cool because it was a little more. Once I got my driver's license, I could crank that stuff, and it was just a little more rock and had a little more of that backbeat to it, like the Waylon, even the Waylon stuff, from earlier, that had just a little more of that backbeat to it. And you know I started listening to so much 90s country in those formative years that, by the time I was putting out my own music, yeah, the that sound was just kind of what I loved, and so it ended up being how a lot of my stuff sounds.
So when you write your songs now, do you try and modernize it, or do you try to make it sound a little newer, or do you just stick with what you know is working?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I don't make a super intentional effort to modernize it, but I do like to incorporate some of the modern elements of country music into my sound. I've always thought, what John Party's been doing for years now has been cool, where it's full of steel guitar and fiddle, but you still know it's country music when you turn it on the radio. So, um, I think my music definitely has elements of modern country, whereas while keeping the instrumentation and some of those classic country sounds that you expect to hear if you're listening to hardcore country music.
So are you a lyric guy or a melody guy first?
I'm definitely a melody guy. I get too hung up on the lyrics, in the sense that I always am just questioning them, and I'm wondering, is that good enough? Could it be better? Because I think for the most part, you could argue that there's always a chance to make a line better. And I guess the question becomes, when do you just leave the line as it is and know, hey, we did a good job saying this. Like, we don't need to try to figure out some even more clever way. Um, I liked how Merle Haggard has always, he's considered one of the greatest country songwriters. Him, Hank Williams, a lot of guys like that, and those guys really, they just said what needed to be said in the most simple terms. There wasn't a bunch of uh, you know analogies and clever little things like that. It was really just saying what needed to be said. And I think what I get hung up on in my songwriting a lot is that a lot of newer country stuff does have an emphasis of trying to be a little more complicated in those styles and having some clever little, hooks and things that, you know, um, weren't originally a part of traditional country songwriting. And so I think I've been getting better about being like, hey, this line is good. We don't need to figure out some crazy new way to say it. It's good as is. So I struggled with that for a little while.
Sometimes I feel like if the melody and the hook is really good, a lot of it can, as long as you got a good melody and a good hook, then you're doing all right.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not saying. I mean, lyrics are. I'm not saying that lyrics aren't important, because if anything, in country music, the lyrics are the most important thing, I would say. Three chords and the truth. But that truth part is where I'm saying you can have good lyrics just by simply stating something. Then if it's true and relatable, then that's all that needs to be said. It doesn't need to be you know some super crazy clever thing. And it's been cool. I think Zach Top has kind of helped bring the old school writing style back, A lot of his songs remind me a lot of the songwriting style of those classic country guys, where it's a pretty simple idea, and simple structure, and it's a country song. That's kind of what it originally was meant to be. So it's been cool to see that kind of style come back a little bit.
What's a typical? Do you like make time to write? Do you um, just do it on the fly, or when something comes to you?
Yeah, I just kind of, when I know I'll have time in the day, or whatnot, I'll try to deliberately make some time to write. But yeah, some of the time it's just, you know, you're doing something and something pops into your head, and that's kind of how the song we just put out uh, 3 days ago, called "From Here." That one, I was walking. I just played a show. I just played a show at IU, at the Bluebird, and then the next day, IU won the national championship, and we'd had some of the song written already, but we hadn't quite found the hook, and for some reason, something just popped into my head, and it was like, I'm just remembering it was Jack and Diane. We were listening to it, coming home from that game in Miami, from the IU championship game, and Jack and Diane was playing, and we were screaming, "Oh yeah, life goes on," and I all of a sudden just heard "Life goes on," but where does it go from here? Because I had already had a lot of the song written before, and knew that the idea of it was kind of about moving from your college years. Where's it go after this? So it just popped into my head. It's like, where's it gonna go from here? It was like, there it is. We got the hook, and we got the hooks, and it took like 4 months before that happened. So yeah,
Yeah, you can't rush those kind of things, can you?
no, you gotta just give it time, I guess.
That's cool because I picked up on the Jack and Diane and the Tom Petty reference in
And
the
the Petty,
song.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, good. See, it's some of my peers that I guess our time, Tom Petty, even though his music transcends time, a lot of my peers didn't necessarily grow up listening to Tom Petty, so I think that reference um, gets lost on some of the younger generation. So I'm glad that you picked up on the Petty reference, and the Mellencamp
I
reference.
don't know if I'd be considered the younger generation, but appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that some generation. I'm glad that
Yeah.
any generation picked up on it. There.
Yeah, no, yeah, we were listening to it, me and a friend of mine the other day, and he was like, "Oh yeah, here's that," and he's like, "Oh wait, no, there's some Mellencamp in there too," and I was like, "Yeah, there is." So
Yeah.
yeah, that
No,
was really cool.
this one's been cool because it's just, I don't, I know some artists like to explore like all kinds of different, they don't like to box themselves in. I listen to a lot of interviews where they're like, "Oh, I want to do it all. I want to do hip hop. I want to do pop music. I want to do country." They want to do it all. I think I feel like I know where my lane is. But that being said, it's fun to have songs where I didn't really worry on when I was writing that one. I didn't worry about, oh, this isn't 90s country sounding enough or anything like that. And because of that, it's definitely one of my more modern sounding songs compared to the last three releases before that. It's definitely got a little more modern elements to it, and it just kind of happened that way. I wasn't trying to do that, but it was like, hey, this is what it sounds like. I'm not gonna not put it out because it doesn't sound as 90s country as my other stuff.
Do you think it's just the evolution of you, or do you think it's just your influences at the time? Like if you go back and listen to your older stuff, does it sound a lot more traditional to what you have put out now?
No, I don't think it. I don't think it has changed in that sense. Yeah, I think it's just whatever's kind of ended up coming out when I've been sitting down and messing with melodies and the chords that came out with the song. So yeah,
So what's your summer looking like now?
we are going to be playing a bunch of fairs and festivals. We're doing a really cool festival, Rooster Tail Music Festival. It's called. I'll put a little shout out to them. It's in Madison, Indiana, the big regatta. I think this is the big boat races, but they do a huge country festival. So the Rooster Tail Music Festival, we are going to be there with a ton of awesome artists. There's too many to list right now, but the Rooster Tail Festival, I'm excited for that one because that's gonna be a big one in Madison. And then, we got dates all around the Midwest for the summer. So the summer's always fun because we get to do some awesome Fourth of July stuff and then some cool fairs, some cool festivals. So looking forward to it as usual.
So do you find yourself doing more and more? Like, do you do music full time?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I would say the last few years we've been steady in the sense of I think I've done between 60 to 70 shows each of the last 2 or 3 years, and to be honest, I like that number that we're at right now. It just allows me to focus on some songwriting and doing all that stuff, and make time for all the different aspects that these days come with being an artist. You really gotta do the social media thing these days if you're gonna do it. So um, that that number of shows we've been doing is a perfect mark to me of where it feels like we're staying busy, we're getting out there playing for people, keeping the live show tight, but also not just losing my voice because we're playing 4 nights a week or anything. I don't want to lose the voice, getting vocal nodules or something there. So
Do you have the same band that you've had since you started?
yeah, I've been lucky to have. We have a pretty consistent same group of guys. Multiple of them have been with me. Yeah, 3 years now, like from the start when we've been doing it. So we've got a tight knit group. We're all buddies. We enjoy hanging out with each other, which is key because a lot of times we're driving hours and hours in a van. The furthest you can get is another 6 inches away from them if you don't like them. So we have fun out on the road, and I couldn't ask for more fun and solid group of guys to be with me. The Hellbenders, they're called. My band's called the Hellbenders. I figured, a lot of the old bands back in the day had names. Alan Jackson, I think his was called the Strayhorns. The George Strait had the Ace in the Hole band. Buck Owens had the Buckaroos. Merle Haggard was the Strangers. That was his band. So Ernest Tubb, the Texas Troubadours. There's a whole line of them. So I thought it'd be cool. Hey, these guys are on stage with me. Let's give them names. So we call them the Hellbenders. So they're a good group of guys.
What's the furthest you've gone in the van?
Ooh, taking it to the furthest we've driven. We've done some fly dates far out west, but we've driven that thing out to Massachusetts, to Cape Cod. So about as far on the East Coast, I think, as you can get on that side, all the way out in Cape Cod. So we've done whatever that was, 14 hours or so in that thing.
Who would you say is your influence now?
Oh man, my influence now, I guess I I gotta say, I mean, John Party is someone who. So I grew up on the old school stuff, and then I got into the '90s stuff, and then that led me to Brad Paisley, and Brad Paisley has always been my guy. I mean, he can play the heck out of the Telecaster guitar. He writes funny songs. I just have always loved his songwriting. So that for me, through elementary school and middle school, Brad, you know he was my go-to. And then I kind of loved what John Party started doing, with bringing that real old school sound with steel guitar, fiddle intros, bringing it back into it. So I think John Party has had a major influence on my sound. Uh, just because it's someone I just admired what he was doing and bringing back at a time when country was moving away from country and it was becoming almost uncool to sound country. He took the opposite approach and made that country sound kind of cool again. So I'd say John Party's got to be got to be my answer for my biggest modern influence.
Were you kind of excited when you seen a lot of those guys coming, like a little more traditional coming back into the scene here probably in the last, few years?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been awesome. I mean, uh, there's guys and gals making just phenomenal country music that I think maybe there were people doing it before the internet stuff, but now that there's one of the one of the few pros I would say to the social media thing, that even though I hate having to post, is it really does allow some awesome singers to be discovered. And it's been cool now because I think they're getting the attention that they deserve. There's a gal, May Estes. I don't know if you've heard of May Estes, but
Hmm.
man, I think I watch her videos like every day. Just her content is always so good. She's singing awesome stuff. She's funny in all her stuff. She makes great music. I'm just a massive Mae Estes fan. And then the guy named Jake Worthington, who's also just crushing it. And they're putting out music that is just, man, it's so Keith Whitley influence. It sounds so good, and it has been cool to see younger artists bring back that traditionally old school sound that was seemed like it was pretty gone for about 10 years, from 2010 to 2020 or so. So yeah, shout out May Estes. If you've not heard May Estes, I'm just a big fan of May. Can't say enough nice things. And I got to play on a little show with May, and I told her how big of a fan I was. She's such a nice person too. She's great.
Getting back onto, you brought up social media and stuff. What's your approach to it currently?
On new music, did you say?
Just promoting yourself.
Promoting myself. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, I think for a little bit, I was just thinking, oh, we'll just play shows, and playing the shows will help reach new people. And I hated to have to acknowledge and realize that it just doesn't quite work that way anymore. I mean, heck, it's hard to get people to even come out to shows now when they can sit at their house and watch Netflix or 10,000 different TV shows or any sporting event. It's just you see nowadays with a lot of venues, incredible venues closing now, sadly. And it's just more proof that people just don't go out on a Friday night for music like they might have 20 years ago and pre you know internet, streaming and all kinds of this stuff. So I finally realized, hey, I gotta really be doing the social media thing if I'm serious about doing this. So, over the past year and a half or so, I've been pretty good at being consistent and posting on social media and trying to show little behind the scenes things that I never would have thought to before. And, it's been working. The social media stuff's been growing, and it's been translating to more streams. So, I don't plan to change anything on my promotion and marketing strategies, other than if I get some big label to put some money behind me, maybe we'll make some even higher quality music videos and put some ad budgets behind that. But for as far as things I can do, I don't plan to change much other than keep posting consistently.
Uh, do you control it all? Do you make all the stuff? Do you book all the
Oh,
shows? Do
I
you?
my social media is 100% me. I run all my social media. Anything posted is definitely something that I have hit post on. I and sometimes some days I'm like, I don't want to do this today, and other days I'm excited to figure out a video to make or edit and post. So, um, I as much as sometimes I wish it didn't exist, it's definitely a tool to use to be discovered. And it's the name of the game now, and that's how it is. So maybe one day I'll be able to have a social media manager, but that'll require me giving up a lot of trust on my or a lot of responsibility. I'll have to trust someone a lot to be posting on behalf of me, I guess.
So do you book all your shows too?
No, so we have people helping around, a team for all kinds of different stuff and doing the websites and helping with show bookings and all that. That stuff I have helped, but when I'm showing my face to the internet and to the world on that sense, that is the one thing where I'm yet to trust anyone else. They might post some bad picture of me or something, and I'll get made fun of. I don't know.
Funny. You're moving on, and you got things currently coming out. You got more new music coming out anytime soon?
Right now, I mean, we just put out a new EP in March 3rd. We put out that new EP, and then we just put this song out. So, uh, nothing planned right now. I'm gonna kind of focus now that we've put 4 new songs out in the past month and a half. I'm gonna focus on promoting these, as I believe they should, and focus on these songs right now, and then we'll be back in the studio working on some more stuff.
Yeah, you're in tour season now, getting out and
Hmm.
playing, aren't you? Now it's warming
Hmm.
up.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All
Yes.
right. Well, Hank, man, I appreciate you coming on here, man.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.